Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So for this week's theme, right, it will be arena centric. So I'll start talking about different things that are arena related. And for today's video, I'll start off with the arena store itself, the different caveats you want to know, as well as what are the units you want to consider, focusing on what are the units that you want to spend your coins on, and you know, the different things that is arena store related. Okay, so if you guys find this video slightly familiar, it's because I actually have an Emporium shop video where I talk about the different things to buy in the recruitment store, in the guild store, slightly in the arena store, as well as the dream store in another video which I'll link in the card above. So that video is Emporium related. Everything inside here is spoken there, but I didn't really touch on arena specifically in terms of each unit individually, so I'm gonna talk about it in today's video. But before I start talking about the arena store, right, first of all, the thing that you need to know is you need to know what is your arena coin income, right? How many arena coins are you getting on a weekly basis or daily basis? So for me, right, as you guys can see, on a daily basis, because this account is consistently in the top 5 rank, I'm actually getting 1050 coins on a daily basis. So that's 7,350 just off the daily rewards. And then if we go into the arena rankings itself, right, the 20 victory actually gives you the victory reward, which is 2000 coins. So for me, that's already 9,350. And then there's also the weekly champions reward. So if I keep my rank at the end of the week, I get up to 2,300 around there. So that's roughly about 11,000 to 12,000 arena coins on a weekly basis. So with the amount of arena coin income on your hands, you can then plan how you want to spend your coins, right? Because this will decide your pacing where you actually get your A level characters, or rather your S level characters. Because for the arena store, if you're somebody who is in the champion rank, which is the top 200 at least, you'll unlock the champion store, which will give you this stellar crystal costing 1,200 coins per crystal. So you can buy up to 5 of it on a weekly basis. And this is something which I always tell people to buy, right? This costs you 6,000 arena coins weekly. So you need to reserve 6,000 arena coins to buy this every week, because the stellar crystal is one of the rarest summoning resources, and it's also one of the access to some of the strongest units in the game, right? Scarlita, Dwonell, Barrow, as well as Rainer, they're all insanely good, right? The more summons you can get, the higher chance you can get them, the stronger you can power up this unit. So always try to get this unit. So with that, right, I'm only roughly left with 6,000 coins every single week to sort of plan around what are the units I want to get within the monthly reset. So for the arena store, right, this arena store resets monthly, but the units inside here haven't been changed since the closed beta testing yet. Although I did hear some info that they might add in more units in the future, but I'm not confirmed when it will come. So we don't plan around that. We plan around what are the units here, right? Plan around how you want to spend your coins. So with 6,000 coins in the champion store, every single week we are left with an excess of around 5,000 plus to 6,000 coins. And every single month we have an excess of around 20,000 plus coins, right? So this will allow me to buy at most 2 copies of any units here, right, on a monthly basis, because that's how I usually spend my arena coins. Buy the stellar crystals and then save up the rest for the units on the arena store. So for the units over here, right, it's actually very easy to make a decision based on how you are developing your account, because out of this list, I'll say it's safe to say that I'll say half the units, or maybe 4 of the units that are usually, you know, like skippable for most people. So units like Lumon, units like Atalanta, to me cecia is a skippable, right? Units like Brutus is also very skippable based on my own opinions. Okay, so I'll go through Cassidy first. Cassidy is a unit that's insanely good for bossing contents, and in certain situations where you need a little bit of control as well as a little bit of magical defense debuff, this unit is the unit you want to use. However, Light Bearer is actually a very weak class right now. At the very least, there's only like, I'll say 2 or 3 very powerful PvP unit. And for PvE side, you have just way better bossing units already. And they're more on the physical side of things, which is Corin and Merrily. So if you're somebody with limited resources in the first place, I won't consider Cassidy, because she's more like a min-max unit. Because he goes really well with the magical attacker, but right now I think physical side is where most people will be, so her power right now is, I'll say, skippable. It's not a bad unit, it's just that she's not the most optimal unit or the best unit of choice. But if you want to build a magical team, if you want to max out your battle drill damage, she is definitely one unit you should consider, because she's good enough to claim a very high damage output in that game mode. So that's for Cassidy. Then we have Heirwin. So Heirwin's case, right, this unit is one of my favorite healer in the game. In fact, she's one of the strongest late game healer in Arena, and I think in certain game modes where you can let out her ultimate with her EX weapon up like 2 or 3 times, you basically win the game, because once she pops her ultimate, your team is basically not dying. With the massive damage reduction as well as the ability to be unaffected, it means that her healing as well as the skill is not going to get interrupted by any CC skills out there. So this means that as long as she gets her ultimate off, your team is not dying, and in most cases, you win the arena match from there. Like 2 or 3 times of her ultimate, you just win, right? You know, on the defense, if you don't deal with Heirwin and you let her ultimate pop off 2 or 3 times, you are going to lose to timeout, because her ultimate lasts quite a while. And if you use it 2 or 3 times, then the enemy is not dying, and then you get timeout, and then you lose the match. So that's how powerful Heirwin is. So I personally love Heirwin a lot, and if I need a healer in my arena setup, or my team is lacking a healer, and I want to focus more towards the PvP side, I will go for Heirwin as my topmost priority. So that's how good Heirwin is. That's what I'll recommend people for. But let's say if you're already running like other units like Coco and Smokey, although Smokey is not the best arena unit, but you're already developing them and you don't really need another good healer, right? Because you have a really good defensive core and you really highly developed then you can actually put Heirwin or Heirwin at a lower priority for your own account. So I think for Heirwin's case, it's based on how much you actually want to use her, how much you value her insane heal abilities, as well as how much you value, I would say, PvP in general, because she's more PvP centric than anything else, and she does do decently well in other contents, but in most other contents you prefer to have an offensive support compared to Heirwin. So that's that. So that's for Heirwin's case. Pretty good unit, in fact one of the topmost priority for me, but depending on your own play style and depending on how you like to play the game, you can choose to skip her, or you can choose to go for her. The next one we have Brutus, I say a skip. Next one is Rowan. So Rowan is a unit I think for most people at where you guys are right now, he's quite okay at Mythic Plus, okay? But Rowan is actually a uber powerful late game unit, because as the game progresses, for now the harder content is actually 12 Abyss, right? So at the high level of 12 Abyss, Rowan is actually insanely meta support because of his ability to just heal up massive HP numbers, as well as provide a massive defense buff from his potion, and his ability to just cycle through the skills such that your other supportive unit can activate their heals, or like Coco can activate the damage reduction to keep your frontline healthy. So this unit is actually very, very meta in the late game, very, very relevant in the late game, and I think this unit's later game PvE pushing potential is definitely there, because as long as Rowan doesn't die off immediately, his ability to just cycle through the skills of your unit is gonna be invaluable for PvE side of things in the long run. So if you like Rowan and you feel that, hey, I don't have anywhere else to, or I don't have any other units I want to spend on, then you can actually buy more of Rowan shards. But I'll say for most people, it is not a top priority, because you only actually need him at Mythic Plus unless you are hard pushing your harder contents. And for Rowan's case, as a support unit, I think he's not a topmost priority, at least in my honest opinion, right? He's a good unit, but he's not the topmost priority. He's more like, okay, if I don't have any other targets I'm going for, then he is a good choice, similar to Cassidy. So that's for Rowan's case. And then for Igor, okay, so Igor is a very arena-centric character. In fact, I think most of these characters here, right? Yeah, in fact, yeah, all of these characters here, to a certain extent, they are not PvE-centric. They are more arena-centric. So for Igor's case, Igor is mostly ran in arena as well. Maybe some form of battle drill teams as a semi-tank. But Igor is very annoying with a lot of stats. So if you love arena and you like to actually have a very annoying unit, you can use Igor, right? You can go for him. I think he's either the first or second priority for me, because my first priority, personally, I'll say is Granny if you don't have Torrent. But if you already have Torrent, then Bryon is my first priority. So I'll talk about these two units later. But for Igor's case, he will be like a second priority for me, because he's a unit that scales with stats, right? So a unit that scales with stats means that in the long run, he's going to be useful no matter what. And not just arena, you can use him in battle drill as well. And if you can use him in multi-team arena, because Supreme Arena is coming, you need at least 3 different teams and you will need 3 sets of tank anyway. So if you don't have like enough tanks in the first place, Igor is a suitable choice to be a semi-tank because he's able to keep himself alive for a little bit, and if you have some sort of sustain, he can heal back up and then continue to be annoying. So I think Igor's positioning will probably go up a little bit depending on how Supreme Arena comes out. But for right now, he will be the second highest priority on this list for me, outside of Bryon and Granny. Right, Heirwin is second and third as well, but I think Heirwin is more of a second choice. Depending on how you shape your account, I'll say this unit is a second or third choice for me. Then the 4th level choice will be Rowan and Cassidy. So they are, if let's say you don't have any other units on this list you want, then you can go for them because they're decent, but they're not so decent to warrant your first choice investment. Okay, so before I start talking about the last 2 units, Granny and Bryon, for these 2 units, right, I'll say they are very, very subjective. In a sense, subjective depending on your personal situation, because for Granny's case, right now, there's actually a few caveats to take note of. So there's actually going to be Supreme Arena, so you need multiple teams and you need a second tank. So eventually you will need Granny because she's the second best tank next to Torrent. And if you need a second and third team, then she will be in one of those teams anyway, right? Because she's like the only other good tank on top of Torrent. And at the same time, for Danny itself, right, she can also be a top tier tank if your Torrent luck is terrible. If you're not getting Torrent as a free-to-play player, then Granny is your best choice because it's very easy to access to her. It's very easy to get her to Supreme Plus within 1 or 2 months of playing. So being able to actually get her first as your topmost priority could be something you think about if you don't have Torrent. But if you have Torrent built up, I think the attractiveness of pulling for her drops by quite a lot, because right now most of the contents only require 1 tank, and for Torrent's case, Torrent is just usable in nearly every single content compared to Granny. So if you already have an amazing tank like Torrent, then Granny's attractiveness will fall. But if you want to prepare for the future, if you want to build around the Wildest faction and you want more control from your tank side, then Granny will be your highest priority. So this is very, very, very subjective. I think some people will say no to Granny because you have a very powerful Torrent, but if you don't have access to Torrent, Granny is actually a very decent choice as well. Then next one, we have Bryon. So Bryon is a very sleeper unit because I think for Bryon's case, because most of these units that are here, right, they are very arena centric. So like most people often attribute Arena to being a whale level character or whale level game mode, so I can see why Bryon is not popular. But this unit, right, is actually one of the best answers to the Graveborn meta as well as the Torrent frontline meta, because he deals with Torrent insanely well. Being able to just snipe off 1 target really quickly makes this unit an insanely good arena unit. And on top of that, in Dream Realm, right, because Bryon has some sort of AoE ability with pretty decent single target ability, making this unit one of the most versatile units in Dream Realm, because you can use him as a farmer as well as a bossing unit. So Bryon as a bossing unit in Dream Realm is obviously not going to be as spectacular as Merrily, OD or even Corin, but if you have him at a very high tier, I think his damage output is also decent. So depending on how you look at it, I'll say Igor, Bryon and Danny will be like my top most priority. If I will have the focus on Danny and Bryon, I'll put them at number 1, tier 1. Then Igor will be tier 2, and then based on like my current needs, right, Heirwin will also be tier 2. And then I'll consider Rowan and Cassidy, because Rowan and Cassidy, I'll say they are good to have. You don't need like them at a very high tier if you're really tight on resources. But if you are able to max out every other unit on the list outside of these 2 because they are not on your wish list, then you can buy them with the arena coins. So arena coins is very flexible in a sense. If you don't put these units on your wish list, you can just buy them with the arena coins. So for example, for Cassidy, she's a good to have unit. You don't have to put her in your wish list. You just have to buy her with the arena coin every reset. Right, so you can still get her up without even wasting your wishlist slot. So feel free to form your own opinions and then decide who you want to spend your precious arena coins on. Thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys!